Chair Devine, you are live.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the October 27th regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority. Due to evolving situation with COVID-19, novel coronavirus, and health recommendations from the LA County Health Department, the Glendale Housing Authority meeting will be available to the public electronically. Due to social distancing requirements, the public will not be able to attend the meeting. The public is encouraged to watch and participate from the safety of their homes to practice social distancing. The meeting can be viewed on Charter Cable Channel 6 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. And you can also go to the Glendale website, glendaleca.gov/government/public meeting portal. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. City staff will be submitting these questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person during the Glendale Housing Authority meeting. And now may we have roll call, please?
Authority Member Agajanian.
Present.
Brotman.
Here.
Kasakian.
Here.
Najarian. Barazian.
Here.
And Chair Devine.
Here. Next, please.
The agenda for the October 27, 2020 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Wednesday, October 21st, 2020 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And what's next?
Next would be approval of minutes of the regular Housing Authority meeting of October 13, 2020.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move the item.
I'll move.
And
Second.
a second. All right, hearing no objections, the minutes stand approved as submitted. And next, please.
5 would be oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through Executive Director for Investigation and Report. I do have a caller on the line.
We do?
Yes, correct.
Okay, please put them through. Thank you.
Mary, you're live. Mary?
Oh, hi. I'm calling because I want you to reconsider the rent freeze ordinance. Usually when you guys make the decision to extend the ordinance, you would do it on the last week of the month. And somehow this time you guys did it the week before and I was not aware of it. And I watched the meeting and I was very surprised because Mr. Broadman brought forth data that's saying that there's a 7.5 decrease in rent in Glendale, which is a very preposterous and misleading statement. He, as an economics professor, he should have known before bringing forth such a data because no one's rent has gone down. I'm a tenant. I know a lot of people who are tenants. Their rents have not gone down. I walked around in my neighborhood, all the empty properties, and I called, and the rent has not gone down. And furthermore, and the rent fees applies to current tenants, those who are in the apartments, not new tenants. So I have not seen anybody whose landlord has lowered their rent. And Mr. Broadman knows that. He knew that, and he intentionally brought forth this misleading statement and data. And when he even presented it, he said he's not sure. But yet he kind of put it forth. He should have known much better, and everyone else should have looked on that. And Mr. Aljanian was the only one. The mayor was the only one who said that, what about the current tenants? And nobody else considered about the tenants that are going. So if we don't call, no one considers the tenants' perspective, only the landlords are representative. The same landlords that wanted to raise rent during COVID, the same landlords that raised rent on properties that did not fall under the rent court ordinance. If they were willing to raise rent on properties after 95, then what would stop them raise rent to the rest of the tenants? I know the LA County has extended the rent freeze until November 30, and there is the city of LA, San Jose, and other cities have also extended the rent freeze. Life has become more expensive for everyone, and nobody's getting any raise, nobody's making profit, and nobody's getting extra hours at this difficult time. So why should the landlords be making extra profit at a time like this? As I stated before, you are relying on the honest word of the landlord. You mentioned that landlords called and they said they don't want to raise rent, but they did raise rent on properties after 95. So how come nobody considers and protects the tenants who are more than 60% of the city? How come nobody thinks about them? Mr. Broadman, he came forth as a candidate, supposedly caring about affordable housing and the renters, but I see him every time. He's trying not to really standing up for the tenants, if it's possible for him, if nobody calls. And others too, Mr. Kasakian, same as well. He came as part of the tenants union. He is supporting the affordable housing, but he never mentioned anything about the tenants who are currently residing in their apartments and their rent has not gone down. And also, we don't mention that the landlords have been getting forbearance on their mortgages. for 1 year. And I know a lot of people who are actually because of that, even though they can pay their mortgages, they have deferred it and made other investments and paid off other debts. But the tenants don't have these opportunities, and we're not asking that we be given extra profit. We don't have anything. More than 90% of tenants have actually paid their rent during these past several months. And a lot of law-abiding tenants are paying their rent, but they cannot afford. It's already, their rent has gone up so much. It's exorbitant. And those tenants who are leaving the Glendale, I see all the apartments for rent. They're not leaving because they don't need housing, because they cannot afford the extra rent. And now, with you allowing the rent fees to expire, you have put more people at risk so that they can live in their homes they have been living in. We cannot afford the extra profit. This is not the time to make extra profit. You should have considered the tenants, and you should have. I was very shocked. No one put an extra thought about the tenants, the residents of the city, and it's really devastating. And I wished we had a city council that was more representative of the tenants instead of only one person saying that. What about those who are living in their apartments right now? And even when Mr. Mayor mentioned it, none of you paid attention to what he was saying. And even the city mayor, even all of you should have considered, like, does it really make sense that a 7.5 decrease in rent? Have you ever heard a landlord decreasing the rent? I haven't, and none of my friends have. And I hope that you guys reconsider this and put back the rent fees on the agenda and protect the tenants of Glendale. We are paying already too much. We have, like, most of our income is going towards rent. And right now...
Mary, thank you for calling in. Mary, your 5 minutes is up.
Okay, so please put this back on the agenda and help the tenants.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
I think, thank you, Mary.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say that, with every decision we make, we have our tenants and our residents in mind. And this is a tough time for everyone. Decisions are very difficult, and we're trying to, in every way that we can, help you out. So with that, what is the next item, please, Mr. Jimmy?
Chair Devine, I do have one more caller on the line.
Oh, okay. Thank you. You're on the line.
Osneef, you're live. Go ahead.
Hi. Good afternoon, let me say. I want you to reconsider the rent freeze because whatever that previous lady was saying, it's all correct. Mr. Burtman, you are misleading the whole city council meeting because you didn't tell the truth. I don't know what kind of teacher will speak like this before proving it. Tenants' rent has gone so high that on the top of that rent increase, I think at this time, it's not something good that you are doing. And you are taking always the landlord's side. I don't know why you are, last time also when the LA County has extended it until November 30, I think you were the first person who said, let's leave it. And because of you were looking for the way how you can escape from removing the rent freeze. So all of you anyway is responsible except Mr. Agajanian, who said that what about the people who are living in their homes already? So what will happen to them? One will pay, according to you, Mr. Burton, one will pay less, the other will pay high. What is this? Are they going to give the 7% discount that you mentioned last time? Are they going to reduce the 7% the rents of the old tenants? No, you are not mentioning that. If you prove that, maybe we accept what you are saying. It's not right. And let me say that all the landlords got some mortgage benefits from the banks, and it's going on still. When they stop, then at that time also you have to think differently. The tenants are most of the people in Glendale. So you have to defend the tenants because their rights are not protected. Please. And Mr. Kasafian, you too. You are not always on the side of the landlord. I know I'm not going to speak about Mr. Najarian. I know why. And so please, all of you, take care of what you are saying, what you are doing, because you are not always on the side of the tenants. You made on your decision on false evidence, so you have to change it, and you have to decide that the rent freeze should continue because of the hard situation of the people who are living Glendale, going away from Glendale, and more apartments will be vacant because I see too many. I see everybody, the sofas are out, the bedrooms are out. I know that people are living. So you are not considering all those things? Why they have to leave their homes? The rents have gone so high. Nobody took care at that time to stop it so that people will be able to pay their rents. Now over that, you want to increase the rent. That's not good. It's not good what you are doing. And the city attorney also, I'm not happy what last time he didn't mention that why the tenants in the apartments are different than the tenants who are new, because all tenants are already paying too high rent. So he should have at least mentioned that. Otherwise, he should have protected the renters. I mean, okay, I want you to reconsider and change it back. As other cities have done, the LA County has done, and I think that we are in a bad situation now. The economy is not good, and you have to consider all of these things and protect the renters. New tenants have a lease. We don't have a lease, so they can anytime increase our rent. So it's not a monthly basis that they do. So the new tenants for 1 year, they will not increase their rents. But for ours, it's not. There is no proof that they will not increase the or after 1 month or after 15 days. I don't know what. So please take care to protect the tenants. Protect us. We have elected you to protect us.
Thank you for calling. Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Chair Devine, can I just respond real quickly? I just want to make it clear because I think there's a little misunderstanding. The data I referenced was from a group called the Apartment List. They do studies of rents across California. And I did mention that this was third-party data, so it was not as if this was my data. Okay, so what they're showing is that rents have been on a declining trend and that they are on average 7.5% lower than they were at the beginning of March. Now, whether that's true or not, that's one data source, not my data. The point is not whether they've gone down 7.5% or 2% or whatever, but at some point we do have to, or we did have to remove the rent freeze. It's a question of when we do it. And with the data showing that rents at least are not increasing, it seemed like the appropriate time. So I just want people to understand that that was the information that I brought, and that was how it informed me to make that decision. And I should also note that you did have one caller from the Glendale Tenants Association last week who indicated that she, if I understood her right, that she thought it would not make much of a difference whether we left that cap on or not because rents are not going up. So even within the tenants union, I think there's understanding that the marketplace has changed and the worries are different now. I understand there are a lot of worries for existing tenants who have unpaid back rents. That is a big issue. We've been dealing with that through the eviction moratoriums. But as far as the rent freeze goes, it's a matter of time. It's never going to be a good time in some people's point of view. But I think with the market being the way it is, it was something we eventually are going to have to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brotman.
Ms. Devine?
Yes, Councilmember
Being a
Najarian.
student of economics, I need to support the conclusions based by Professor Brotman. It is true in the large scale rents and total cost of renting has stabilized, if not dipped. That total cost may be reflected in rent deferments, rent abatements, and other concessions by landlords upon move-in, and other costs that are usually borne by the tenant. So I know it is a difficult time for everyone involved, but I think the observation of the environment of the residential rental region is correct by Mr. Broadway.
Thank you, Mr. Jarian. I also want to add to that I spoke to some folks who told me that the landlords do not want to lose their renters. They want to keep them. And so they're not going to be raising their rents to some extraordinary amount. So I hope this is all true, and that we can somehow get through this pandemic easier from now on. So let's go to the next item, please.
Next item is 6A, Community Development regarding selection of an affordable housing developer in response to a request for qualifications issued by the Housing Authority July 29, 2020, to develop an affordable housing project for families on Housing Authority-owned property at 900 East Broadway. One, motion authorizing the Executive Director to execute an exclusive negotiating agreement with Meta Housing Corporation for purposes of negotiating an agreement to develop an affordable housing development for families on Housing Authority-owned property at 900 East Broadway. Next is 2, motion directing staff regarding selection process. 3 would be motion selecting another proposal for purposes of negotiating an agreement to develop an affordable housing development for families on Housing Authority-owned property at 900 East Broadway.
Thank you. This is very exciting. Let's see, Mr. Galanian?
Yes, thank you.
Who is-
Thank you, Housing Authority Chair Devine and members of the Housing Authority. As you noted, this is a very exciting moment as we bring this item forward, and a very important milestone in furthering the Housing Authorities and City Council's vision and the goal of creating more affordable housing units for families in the city of Glendale. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Fortney, our Principal Housing Project Manager, to go over his presentation, the background, and the proposals. And I believe Meta Housing is also on the line, who will have a brief presentation of their proposal for your consideration. With that, Mr. Fortney.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Housing Authority Chair Devine, Housing Authority Chair, our board members. I'm Mike Fortney, Housing Project Manager. Presentation will start with a site map. The site we're talking 900 East Broadway. It's roughly 3 blocks east of where we're sitting now. It's a 0.8 acre site. We acquired that site along with the adjacent site at 912, 920 East Broadway, as well as 117 South Belmont, approximately 1 year ago from Tobin World. So the entire site, 900 East Broadway and 920 East Broadway, combined is 1.6 acres. They're split in half by a north-south alley. So the site we're talking about today is 900 East Broadway. We acquired both sites to develop affordable housing, but because the two sites are very different, with 900 East Broadway, really just being able to clear that site and build new construction up versus the site east of the alley where it 3 historic buildings that will be subject to acquisition or to adaptive reuse and historic preservation. So the Housing Authority on July 21 authorized staff to issue separate RFQs for the 900 site and for the 920 site. So again, the 900 East Broadway site is 0.8 acres. It's improved currently with a single-story structure and surface parking. Current zoning there would allow for 35 units. With a density bonus of 35%, 48 units could be built, of which 42 would be at market rate, and another 6 would be reserved for low-income housing. CDD staff recommended a density of 100 units to the acre, given the product will be 100% affordable, excuse me, that was a target that we had kind of tried to hit back when we were just first looking at acquiring the site. So with that, the Community Development Department contracted with KFA Architects to come up with a preliminary design for the site with a guidance of 80 units of affordable housing for families. So they did come up with that design. That design was attached to the July 21 Housing Authority hearing when we first presented the RFQ and asked for authorization to issue that. That 80 units breaks down to 41 bedroom, 22 bedroom, and 23 bedroom units. One of the things that we heard loud and clear at that meeting July 21 was the desire to see potentially more units on the site. So staff went back, worked with KFA to try to increase that unit count up, and we were able to increase the unit count 10% from 80 units to 88 units. The RFQ was issued 8 days later, July 29, and the revised entitlement package with 88 units was then attached to the RFQ, and that is what went out to the development community. So concurrent with the selection process, KFA is working to entitle the project. At the point when we issued the RFQ, again, the project was at 88 units. So we issued the RFQ, and September 14th was the deadline to respond. We received 12 responses to our RFQ. Very good number, pretty manageable. The last time we issued an RFQ for affordable housing, we actually received 18. Prior to that, we received 14. So 12 was a little bit more manageable for us, but still a very good number. You can see on the slide there, listed in alphabetical order, are the 12 development teams that responded to the RFQ. So once the RFQ was issued to the public, staff created an RFQ review team. That team included staff from planning, urban design, concierge, and housing. The evaluation criteria that we used, which was in the RFQ, included development experience, development team and partnerships, the developer's vision and how well they can articulate that, financial feasibility, housing affordability, sources and uses, additional benefits, the project's timeline, and compliance with the RFQ. Again, all those were in the RFQ, so it was not a surprise. Talk a little bit about the RFQ evaluation in each category. Development experience, we looked at the number of projects that the developer has developed, and we were interested in projects, particularly those that proposed a 9% tax credit financing scheme. What their experience was in developing projects in the balance of LA County. Balance of LA County is everything in LA County except LA City. And the reason for that is that is the jurisdictions which Glendale has to compete with when we are going for 9% tax credits. Development team and partnerships. So there we're looking at relevant projects that have been designed, developed, owned, managed, and I could include services, service providing. We are looking at all of that. It was not necessary that the team or the developer itself had experience in Glendale, but we did look on that favorably, that either the developer or elements of the developer team had experience in Glendale, knew the process, were familiar with projects that the city has done before, and sort of the things that we kind of look for. In terms of the developer vision, it was really important that we saw how well the vision for the particular site was developed and articulated. I won't get into particulars, but it's very clear when you're looking at some of the responses that some of them are a little bit more generic responses versus those that really took the time to look at the site, to look at, in our case, the early entitlement package and see where we were going with that, and to kind of see where there's kind of an open canvas and where there's opportunities for them to really show a vision. And some of the developer teams really did a really good job articulating that vision. Others not so much. Rfq Evaluation, financial feasibility, develop the project substantially as presented with contribution of land and upwards of $5 million from the Housing Authority. So that is one thing that we did put in the RFQ, was that we were looking for a developer team that could substantially build the project as it was presented in the entitlement package with the RFQ, with contribution of land of $5 million, upwards of $5 million from the Housing Authority. There were a number of responses where they could build the project that we were entitling, but with substantially less parking, and they could do that for the $5 million. Or there were developer options where they could build the project largely as we were entitling it, and if you wanted all the parking that we wanted in addition, along with that, it would cost the Housing Authority beyond that $5 million. There was really, out of the 12, there was any number of responses to that. But we kind of looked at that as a threshold. If you demonstrated to us that you can build the project as it was presented, with the parking as it was presented, and you can do that with a land contribution of $5 million from the Housing Authority, and then leverage additional outside funds, that's something we looked at as kind of a threshold. We also looked at other leverage sources of funds that kind of kicks into the same category below with sources and uses. But here we're really looking at, if you're bringing in other leveraged sources of funds, and the RFQ did state this as well, we want to see other leveraged funds offset the Housing Authority's financial participation. Oftentimes that was not the case. Housing affordability, in this one, I have to say, across the board, almost all 12 targeted incomes between primarily 30 to 60% AMI. There was a rule change with the 9% that allows units to be rented up to 80% of area median income, provided as an average, all of the units do not exceed 50% of AMI. So that's a new rule. It used to be limited strictly 30 to 60% AMI. But even with this new rule and with additional flexibility, all of the developers in this particular example were very close, with one exception. There was one developer who targeted a number of units at 90%, and those 90% units would not have, would have had to have been financed outside the 9% tax credits. And then talking again on sources and uses, one of the things you have to look at is the competitiveness of the additional sources. 9% we talk about a lot is a very competitive process. Those funds are very, very competitive. 4% affordable housing tax credits are also very competitive. But virtually every funding source for affordable housing is very competitive. And the way you compete for those is different than how you might compete for a 9%, where with 9%, our cash contribution to the project and the land, that affects greatly the tiebreaker. That's not necessarily the case with other funding sources. So that's something housing staff in particular was looking at in terms of those other sources and uses. And then the benefit of those additional sources. Sometimes, again, if the benefit of that additional source is to offset the Housing Authority's participation financially, that's a really big deal for us. Additional benefits could also be the targeting of special needs populations. And in many of those cases, that was the case. So there were additional sources that could have brought in 20%, or even in some cases 50% of the units to be reserved for formerly homeless or some other special needs, including developmentally disabled domestic violence folks who've suffered from that. There's a number of special needs, and it kind of ran the gamut in terms of what developers were proposing, in addition to the just general family population that's between 30 to 60% AMI, or 30%, 80% AMI, my apologies. We also looked at additional benefits, and in this particular case, and it was part of the package with the RFQ, the entitlement package. What staff was looking to do, and we, of course, discussed this at the July 21 hearing, was we'd really like to see that alley, that north-south alley that separates 900 from 920 East Broadway. We would like that vacated in favor of pedestrian paseo. So that was a really good opportunity for developers to hit on that and really show a vision for that pedestrian paseo. So that was an additional benefit. And of course, developers were instructed that parking for the other project, the 920 East Broadway site, would need to be provided at 900. And developers addressed that in different ways. And then very important project timeline. What we're looking to see is a completion of construction completion by the end of 2023 and a fully leased project by no later than first quarter 2024. Many developers did show a timeline that can hit that. There were some that did not. Some fell into 2024, near the end of 2024. There were some that were a little aggressive in saying that they could potentially deliver the project in May of 2023. I very much doubt that. However, if anyone thinks wholeheartedly that they could deliver by May of 2024, or 2023, I apologize, I think that they could deliver by the calendar year end 2023, which is what we're really looking for. And in an ideal world, we'd have it 100% leased by the end of 2023 as well. And then finally, we had that compliance with the RFQ. There was one or two where we may have said not necessarily meets, but in fairness, I think all 12 of the developers, all of the submittals, because although there were 12 developers, there was probably a total of 18 different scenarios proposed. All of them were compliant with the RFQ. They were all rental projects. They were all affordable units. So we did not necessarily dismiss any one of those 12 as saying you did not meet the compliance of the RFQ, and we did not evaluate them. I would say every developer, all 12 of them were contacted by staff at least once, probably twice. Some were contacted by staff upwards 3, 4, even 5 times, I think. And those with the outreach to staff more than quite a few times, that was because they had financing packages that were just a little more complicated, and it just took a lot of work from staff to try to really make sure we understood it correctly before we made a recommendation. So fast forwarding to October 8th, the RFQ review team met and conferred. Again, that's the staff from planning, concierge, housing, and urban design. And we went around the table through a consensus process, and each of us listed our top 3. In some cases, there was members who only had 2 in their top, and others may have had their top 2, and then their 3rd and 4th was kind of tied. And so we went around and we just made the discussion over and over again, and then eventually we came to 3 candidates that we felt we could come to consensus to say yes. Of all 12 of these development teams, of all 12 of these submittals, we believe these 3 really did the best job. And I just want to comment here for a moment. We're really lucky to be where we are because we have so many talented developer teams. It is difficult sometimes to go through these and narrow down the selection because, quite frankly, the 3 that we believe to be the best in response to this RFQ, there are others that I would not hesitate to say would do a fine job developing 900 East Broadway. But as staff and as the RFQ review team, it's our job to try to narrow down who we thought was best for this site based on the submittal that they gave us. So those 3, in alphabetical order, were Link Housing / National Core. If you recall, they built our last affordable housing project, and those two developers teamed up on Vista Grande Court to deliver that project. Link was the developer, if you will. National Core was the general contractor and is the one who is now managing the property. We also had Meta Housing. And if you recall, Meta Housing developed ACE 121. It was the second to the last affordable housing project in Glendale. That project, ACE 121, which it was just a fantastic project as well, that is an artist project. That is not what Meta Housing is proposing here. Meta Housing does a lot of affordable housing projects, some of which are artist colonies, including ACE 121. But in this case, Meta Housing is proposing strictly an affordable housing project. And then third, we had West Hollywood Community Housing Corporation. They too have experience in Glendale. I, as the project manager, have not worked with West Hollywood. They completed their project on Orange Grove, a 24-unit project, 20 years ago. So they predate my time here, but they do have some experience in Glendale. And then during the RFQ process, again, the entitlement package continues to be refined, right? So we're concurrent to the selection process. We're working with KFA to get that entitlement package refined. And the current entitlement package has just naturally is going to evolve as you're working with urban design staff, as you're working with planning staff. It's naturally going to evolve. But the RFQ review team also met with KFA Architect to look at some of the suggestions that any number of the 12 development teams had made in regards to the RFQ. So some of the changes that we have made in the entitlement package that we currently have now and is attached to this report includes the elimination of the surface parking. It involves lowering the courtyard, which was elevated on a podium, bringing that down to the ground level so that it's even with the paseo, which we want to see for that north-south alley. We were able to increase the community space by approximately 1,000 square feet by doing that. And also we were able to increase the number of units, this time from 88 to now 93 units. And we think with these changes, it is still a viable project. It's still one that we can get financed. We're probably pushing the limit, but I think we're going to get an amazing project here with more units than we really even expected to get. We were shooting originally for 80 units. That would have been 100 units to the acre. I think at 93, we're at 116 units to the acre now. And briefly, I just wanted to talk about that. This came up as a question by a couple of different council members during round robins. The original project that we had brought to July 21, pardon me, 80 units, that included a unit mix of 41 bed, 22 bed, and 23 bed. And then on July 21, we heard from the Housing Authority you wanted to see an increase in the number of units, if at all possible. What we did was that we increased the number of studios. We didn't have any before. So under the 88 unit scenario, the one that was attached to the RFQ issued July 29, we had a total of 25 studios, 18 one bedrooms, 23 two bedrooms, and 22 three bedrooms. And now with this revision to 93 units, an additional 5 units above that, our unit mix is now at 25 studios, 20 one bedroom, 23 two bedroom, and 24 three bedroom, with one additional 2 bed for the manager's unit. And part of the unit mix there is meeting the 9% requirement that we have at least 25% of the units be 2 bedroom or greater, and 25% of the units be 3 bedroom or greater. So we met that requirement and then provided the additional units in studios and 1 bedrooms. I think I'm missing a slide.
Let me try to go back one more time.
Okay.
How about this one?
Yes,
the one
great,
you
thank
need?
you. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so October 8th, the RFQ review team met and conferred with the 3 top developers. The 3 teams that we selected we scheduled for interviews the following Friday. One of the interesting, or for the following Wednesday, I apologize. One of the interesting things, the revised entitlement package came out on the 8th. And we were scheduling the interviews for these top 3. And mind you, all 12 responded to the original 88 units that went with the RFQ on July 29th. But we thought what would be really interesting here is really giving the top 3 a very short amount of time to respond to this refined entitlement package, where we went from 88 units to 93 units, and where we brought all the parking into a subterranean structure versus some on the surface, and some of those other changes. So it only gave them a few days to respond to that. And so we added that to the interview questions. So we had 4 questions for the 3 developer teams. And it was basically just an introduction of your development team, really talk to the vision of your site, see how well they articulate that. We really wanted to see how they responded to that refined entitlement package, which they saw Friday afternoon and are speaking on the following Wednesday in this interview. And then finally, we really wanted them to speak and be very clear on their competitiveness, how they feel they are in terms of competitiveness in securing funding, the sources and uses that they proposed, and their ability to meet the timelines. So those 3 teams, and I do go into it in a little bit more detail in the staff report. The 3 teams did really well. Some, teams responded to the first question better than, maybe the second question. Some did answer the 4th question really well. And I think one of the developer teams probably shined the best on the 3rd one with having a short amount of time to respond to that and refine entitlement package. But overall, the RFQ review team met and conferred once more, and it was a near unanimous decision that among those 3, it seemed to the RFQ review team that Meta Housing was able to respond to all of those areas the best. So we again, I must say, all 3 developer teams could do a great job on this project. There are teams that didn't make the top 3 of the RFQ team that could also do a very good job on this project. But we believe through this process that Meta Housing Corporation is the one developer whom we would recommend as having performed the best. So having said all of that, staff's recommendation is to authorize the executive director to execute an exclusive negotiating agreement with Meta Housing. A draft exclusive negotiating agreement is attached to this report. The ENA would be effective. I would think we can execute that in 1 week from today. The ENA period would then allow staff time to negotiate a letter of loan commitment. A letter of loan commitment will be more detailed in terms of the dollar amount of the housing authority's participation, whether it be 3, 4, 5 million, somewhere in that ballpark. And that all has to be done. We need a letter of loan commitment brought back to you prior to March 1, 21, so that they have that commitment from us when they then apply for the 9% affordable housing tax credits. They can't do that without the letter of loan. So that's something that would be brought to you during the ENA period prior to March 1. And then to talk further on next steps, should the Housing Authority authorize the executive director to enter into that ENA with Meta Housing, again, the entitlement package, the entitlement process is still going through. It is our goal to hit DRB for approval in January 21. Actually, staff is meeting tomorrow to kind of really hammer out some of the timelines for planning hearing officer, probably in December, and then trying to make that goal of December or January for the DRB. Again, CDD will continue to negotiate the terms and bring back a letter of loan commitment before March 21, before that 9% affordable tax credit application. Should we get the tax credit award in March 21, we would then return to the Housing Authority one more time with an affordable housing agreement. Affordable housing agreement is far more detailed than even the letter of loan commitment in terms of the Housing Authority's participation, other funding sources. All the details will be hammered out in the AHA. So there are details that you can give us that we can aim towards in that letter of loan commitment. But there's a great deal more detail that would go into the affordable housing agreement. That AHA would have to be brought back to you before construction could begin. That's brought back typically when we know who the general contractor would be, who the tax credit investor might be, who the construction lender might be. When all of these things are determined, and we have a lot greater detail. So that AHA would then come back to you. All of those things fall into place. The project would break ground in fall of 21. That would be next year, roughly this time next year. And with an anticipated completion prior to December 31st. And I would say a goal of 100% lease up by December 31st, 2023 also. And to talk about some alternatives, the Housing Authority may direct staff, may not wish to just take staff's recommendation and go with Meta Housing with that E&A. The Housing Authority may direct staff to invite the top 3 development teams, that would include Meta, Link, Core, and West Hollywood, back at a future date for interviews by the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority may direct staff to return with additional information or analysis on any of the 12 RFQ submittals. The Housing Authority may just reject staff's recommendation to select another team altogether, or can consider any other alternative not proposed by staff. And then I want to end there. Of course, I'm very happy to answer any questions you may have, but I wanted to say the entitlement package as it's currently drafted and attached to the staff report, we do have our outside architect, that's John with KFA Architecture. He is available if you would like for him to walk you through select slides from that entitlement package. He's standing by and he's very happy to do that. In addition, we have Meta Housing, who has a presentation between 5 and 10 minutes. They are also standing by should you wish to have that presentation by Meta Housing. And with that, I end my presentation, and I'm very happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Devine.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fortney. Mayor, do you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I have a question from
Please.
Mr. Fortney. First, on page 15, who's executive director that he has to execute in E&A with Meta Housing? Who's the executive director? I never heard
The executive director is the city manager.
Oh, okay. Usually they right. Okay, I have question on this is, I don't know where the page number is on this, on the, well, project information, it says, but I don't see, oh, G002, I guess, or, yeah, G002. It's this long pages where the drawings are, planning.
The cover sheet, Mayor?
No, this, you know where the drawings are, you know, all these long drawings, so it's called G002. I think, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, yes.
Did you find it?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. On middle of the page, it says proposed unit mix, as you were explaining.
Yes.
Studio, 25 units, 27%. One bedroom, 20 units, 20%, right?
Yes.
22%, sorry. Two bedroom, 23 units, 25%. Three bedroom, 24 units, 26%, right?
Right.
So how come when you add up, the 2 bedroom and 3 bedroom are more than 2 bedroom and 3 bedrooms?
I'm not clear. I would say those numbers are rounded, the percentages.
Okay, rounded, but still, the studio and 1 bedroom are 49%, and the other two are 51%. As we discussed, I would like to see smaller units, less 3 bedrooms. And you brought me a document here that it says large family projects to be considered large family housing, the application shall meet the following additional threshold requirements, right?
Yes,
This is what you gave me.
that's right.
Okay. It says at least 25% low-income units in the project shall be 3 bedrooms or larger units. Okay. Is there any way or any condition otherwise that you can go beyond this? Because we need to have more people to get into these units. I think 3 bedrooms, it's over 1,000 square feet of unit is over 1,000 square feet, right?
3-bedroom, yes.
So smaller units to house more people who are waiting. We had last time, we had 65 units. Let me take this out. We had 65 units available and 6,875 people came forward, right? On Sonora and Fifth.
That sounds right.
So these people, how long they have to wait? That's what I can't understand. With this, and the smaller, we have the chance of making this waiting list a little bit dent, a minor dent in it. I just wonder, specifically, I want to say, see if there is any way to go around this 3-bedroom and add it to other units, or to 2-bedroom units, or to 1-bedroom, or studio.
Mr. Mayor,
it
this is,
legally, this is to Mr. Garcia also, to look into this matter to see if there is legally something can be done. Because as I said, I read it, this percentages, which I read to you. For footage-wise, I don't know if number-wise I see you have it, but square footage-wise, how much square footage will be studio and 1-bedroom? And how much square footage will be on 2-bedroom and 3 bedrooms? Do you have the square footage?
It's definitely in the entitlement package, yes.
Mr. Mayor, while Mr. Fortney may be looking for that, this is in the Code of Regulations, and it's the way that the Tax Allocation Committee looks at and evaluates proposals. They want to see families in projects that are family projects. If the council or the housing authority wanted more units, we could make this a senior project and do them more. We could do more studios. You wouldn't be serving families, and we would have to go back and redesign this. The council had indicated, the housing authority had indicated a family project. So we are right now at the minimum number that we can do to submit an application for consideration.
No, there is no exception, no other way to go around it, because all government codes and regulations, all the time there is exception of doing this.
Mr. Mayor, if we were to, even if we were to get the quote exception, this is still a competitive process. And so if you're looking, as the tax committee is looking at projects, they're going to look at those that adhere to their regulations and their guidelines. And those that don't are going to be looked at less favorably. So it's a matter of competition that we're trying to achieve the goal of affordable units leveraging tax credits, providing housing for families. There will still be 1-bedrooms and singles in here, studios, that perhaps seniors could rent if they are fortunate to win the lottery. But as the housing authority outlined the project, as we outlined it to the housing authority, and the housing authority approved it, this is a family project. 25% of the units, 2-bedroom, 25% 3-bedroom, we're right at the minimum.
We added as many units as we could to still stay within a design that we think is appropriate for not only the neighborhood, but the project that we know is going to be adjacent.
So what's the square footage? Yeah.
Yeah, so this, this may not be the best, but A110, in that entitlement package, it has the floor plans for each floor of the project. So I'm looking just at the first floor, they generally stack up. We have 3 bedrooms as low as 1,020 square feet and upwards of 1,100 square feet. We have studios as low as 400 square feet. And I see one at 420. Oh, there's the largest studio at 480 square feet. We have 1 bedrooms that meet the minimum for code, which is 600 square feet, and others that go up to 650. And I see 2 bedroom at 800 square feet, which is the minimum per code for a 2-bedroom. So that's roughly the range of square footages that we're looking at. We're not looking at units much larger than what code requires.
No, but if you add, say, 25 units of studio with 500, you add to 20 units of 1 bedroom with 600, the square footage will be much less than a square footage of when you add 2 bedroom and 3 bedroom together. So the 25%, you know what I'm talking about? We have 25 units of studio, which you say will be between 400 and 500 square foot, right? 25 of 400 will be 10,000, right?
Yep.
Hold on, let me make sure that I don't say
It's 10,000.
wrong. 100, yeah, 10,000. Okay, 10,000 will be 10,000 square feet. When you have 20 units of 1 bedroom, which is 600, that's 12,000 square feet. When you go to 25 bedroom of 1,100, okay, that's 25,000 square feet. And you have 23 units of 800, that's another 20,000. So what I'm trying to say, the 2 bedroom and 3 bedrooms will occupy 45,000 square feet of area, where the studio and 1 bedroom are occupying 22,000 square feet area. Am I clear what I'm talking about?
You're perfectly clear. And
So it's
How
unit-
come this is 25% or
It's unit count, not necessarily square footage.
but this is very unfair. I mean, 45,000 versus 22,000. It's twice as much, even more than twice as much we are giving to 2 bedroom and 3 bedrooms.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know what to tell you. Those are that is the guideline that's outlined in the code that we are trying to adhere to. And again, we could go ask the tax committee, and they're not going to be able to tell us, yes, you'll be just as competitive. They may tell us, no, that's not the way we look at it. And again, what we've tried to do is, as we understand the code from doing this for many years with the tax committee, that it's unit count and not necessarily square footage. You are going to have more square footage with 3-bedroom units than you are with studios. That's just a fact. So unless you had all the units the same size and bigger studios and smaller 3 bedrooms, you really need to look at unit count.
And if I
One
may
second,
add-
1 second, I'm not done, I'm sorry. I'm not
Sorry,
done.
Mayor. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So when we say 25% to be 3 bedrooms, so is there a restriction that make the 3 bedrooms smaller?
No, but practicality, and I didn't design the units, but practicality says you've got to have a unit big enough for 3 bedrooms. And 3 bedrooms
So what's
is,
the minimum for 3 bedrooms, which is allowed?
well, again, maybe a question for the designer, the architect, But we've got a box that we're working within to fill that. And they're 1,000 square feet. You'll probably have 4 people in a 3-bedroom, if it's a family, is what we would think. 250 square feet a person, pretty small. When you're looking at a family. And I understand your aim, Mr. Mayor, and, but when we look at practically designing that with corridors that we've got to have and everything else, this is what we come up with. Could we make it 900 square feet? I suppose you could. But then you really reduce that, and
No, then you can add to the, let's say, 1-bedroom or, what's the name?
Madam Mayor, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure we're going to be able to answer all these questions right here and now this afternoon. I think we have the questions. I can basically work with CDD staff to just verify what the TCAC regulations are. My suggestion is, if there are
Move
other
on.
questions, we answer those questions and then let the developer, Meta, make their comments
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
try to continue on with the rest of our
All right.
afternoon.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a request, please. I'm still on the PowerPoint, and I'd like to see my colleagues and the presentation that's coming up. So if technology can change what I'm looking at.
Oh, stop sharing.
Because I can't recognize anyone because I don't see them.
Do you want this or you want something else?
She wants to stop sharing the PowerPoint.
Oh, stop sharing, okay.
Right, yes. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So shall we go to the, unless my colleagues have a difference of opinion, but let's hear from the Meta representatives, Carpenter and Mathis, perhaps at this point. Would that be okay with everyone? Yes?
Yes.
Let's hear
Yes.
from them, please.
Chair Devine, I have a few questions, but I can hold them. They're just
Thank you.
on
Would you
energy
please-
efficiency stuff.
Let's do that, okay? Thank you. I think we all have questions, but hear from Meta. That's Tim Carpenter and Christopher Mathis. Are they there?
We have Chris Mathis.
Yes.
We are. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, council members, and Commissioner. We actually have a PowerPoint, unfortunately, as well, so we may cut the screen in half again.
Thank you.
Christopher, would you like me to share the screen?
That would be great if you could. Thank you. Probably next slide, please. Again, good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, council members, and commissioners. I'm Chris Mathis, Executive Vice President of Meta Housing. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to present today. Just a little bit about ourselves. Since 2003, we've developed more than 80 affordable communities and 7,000 residential units in California. We really approach every as a true partnership with the city and community, and strive to deliver projects that uplift local neighborhoods, as well as the residents that call our buildings home. And as Mr. Fortney mentioned, I think many of you folks are familiar with us and know the quality of our work through your significant involvement in the ACE 121 project that was completed in partnership with the Housing Authority in, I believe, 2017. I think first up, I'd like to compliment the staff for the work they've done developing the vision for the RFP site. They did a phenomenal job, not only selecting an architect with extensive experience designing density within historic environment, but also maximizing the number of units that are financially viable given the limited funding available for the project at the state level. So, we're extremely excited about the opportunity to hopefully step in and execute on the City and Housing Authority's vision for the site. Next slide, please.
Mr. Mathis, you're cutting kind of in and out. I don't know if you can get closer to your microphone or.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so next slide, please. Great, thank you. We really looked to assemble a team that could expand upon the great work that's already been done. We brought in Tagawa Smith Martin as the production architect to take over the KFP design. And we've worked with them successfully in the past, executing on already entitled. On top of that, we've teamed with Studio 111, who's one of the best urban designers we've had the privilege of working with to help integrate the public and private spaces, really with a focus on the unique Paseo alley opportunity, again, that Mr. Courtney touched on, kind of backing the two housing authority site. Studio 111 has recently worked with the city on East 121, as well as the Alfresco Glendale and the Glendale Arts and Entertainment District. So they have a wealth of experience with the city from a planning perspective, and just bring incredible talent to the design team. Lastly, but definitely not least, we've collaborated again with Engage to bring their incredible social services platform and team to tie really all of these spaces in the surrounding community together through programming. So we have a quick presentation of the project vision. Wanted to walk through the proposed financing and schedule, and then hopefully answer any questions you might have. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Michael Bond, who's the Senior Principal and Design Director at Studio 111. Next slide, please, Michael.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Did you want to talk about anything on this slide, or otherwise I'll just move straight on ahead?
Let's just move straight on to the
Okay.
presentation, please.
So we're very excited about converting this alley into a public paseo that will benefit the community, but most importantly, both of these developments. You can see on the right side the proposed 900 East Broadway block building, and then on the left side is the 920 East Broadway block building. And this paseo, it fronts both sides of these developments that the city both controls. And what's exciting about that is that the seniors in the left side and the family housing residents on the right side can mix in this alley, and we call it an intergenerational mixing zone. So we want to program this paseo with lots of great events that will encourage both residents from both developments to mix in this zone. And we have found on other developments like this that not only do seniors benefit by being with families, but families benefit greatly by having seniors engaged as well. And then at the bottom level, there'll be a courtyard, which will be for the family component. And then on the roofs, we have 4 separate roof decks, and they'll each be programmed differently to adapt and respond to the residents and the family housing. And then the bottom left diagram shows this interconnectivity that this paseo will create, which will be really important. And then from a sustainability perspective, now that this alley isn't just focused on cars, we can soften it up. We can create a very porous surface in order to allow for rainwater to percolate back into the ground from a sustainability perspective. Next, please. And so these are some of the images of what the paseo could look like. The top left image, as many of you probably know, is ACE 121, and we had proposed a paseo there that serves as a spillover space for the gallery and other events. And in this particular case, the Paseo will be even more active because of both sides of the Paseo will be controlled by developers that want to utilize that space. We think that to activate that Paseo, having either a dog park or some kind of component for pets, as well as community gardens, will help with that intergenerational mixing. When two parties have something in common and share those uses, there's a great opportunity to create that mixing zone. The bottom left image shows the community rooms, which were proposed for both developments to front this Paseo, to have perhaps garage doors that open up and really just embrace the space. And then the middle images show, again, what this zone could look like. On the left side is this idea of a portal that people could pass through into the space. We think there could be a large heritage tree at the end of the Paseo as a focal point that could be lit up with lanterns and different types of lighting. And there can be activities such as bike share, arts components for seniors or families that, again, helps activate this space and makes it really an outdoor living room for the community. Next, please. And then the courtyard, which now is at grade, is a great enhancement to the design. We think that a top lot should be there for the family housing. We also like the top lot to look kind of artistic, so that when it isn't in use, it's still an interesting piece for residents to look upon. And then the right two images show some of the other outdoor spaces we'd like to have in that courtyard for the residents to either gather in groups or into smaller meetings. And we think it should be lushly landscaped as well, as the bottom left image shows. Next, please. And then the rooftops themselves, we actually named them per their use. So there is dine, there's recreate, there's relax, and there is work and learn. And we think, now with COVID, that this idea of a work-learn deck where people can go upstairs and work or Zoom or do whatever they need to do, or kids can go up there to learn during school hours on their computer. It's another opportunity to have a place to function, as opposed to just having families densely packed into their apartments. So that's what one of the decks could look like. We have a couple of images that show for dine, barbecue areas, seating areas, communal tables for people to enjoy dining al fresco. We also have the relaxed deck. In that area, we could have a wall that's blank that we could project movies on. People could sit there and read a book, and it would just be a very casual environment. And then we also have recreate, where we could have yoga or some type of health and wellness component, a gym opportunity or exercise. So we think each of these could have a very unique character for the residents to enjoy. Next, please.
So I'm Tim Carpenter from Engage. I'm the CEO and founder of Engage, and we've been doing resident programming for 22 years, and we currently do programs in 60 plus affordable projects in 3 states, one of which is ACE 121 in Glendale, where for the past few years we've been running all of the resident programs and curating events in the gallery and the Paseo there. And as Michael and Chris mentioned, one of the things that we see as a unique opportunity with both the 900 and 920 projects is the idea of creating intergenerational programs to connect the senior building and the family building, and through that promote generational equity and provide opportunities for meaningful mentorship. As Michael mentioned, mentorship can go both ways. With older adults mentoring kids, and potentially kids teaching older adults like me to get better at technology. Really trying to reverse and fix age-based stereotypes and battle ageism, and take full advantage of the geographic proximity proximity of the two buildings to foster community between the two and also with the surrounding neighborhood. And in addition to intergenerational programming, Engage will provide after school tutoring, healthy living classes, music, arts, and dance programs. For those of you who have been to some of the ACE 121 events, you might recognize the older adults who's providing art programming for some of the kids that live at ACE 121. Avo, who is one of our most prolific artists there and has become a teaching artist that helped the kids with artistic programming there. And the proximity of ACE 121 also gives us another advantage to connect the three buildings together through programming. And it's one of the things that really sets apart Meta's developments is this idea that the social services programs are really an important component that strengthen the connection within the building with the residents that live there, and then also being a fabric of the community at large and really creating a sense of neighborhood and connectivity and purpose. In addition to all of that, we'll be running an after-school program, a really unique and comprehensive after-school program for students 1 through 12 grades. We'll have individual tutoring programs, homework assistance, computer skills training, academic enrichment, arts programming. So really a curriculum-based program based on what the schools in Glendale are doing to give kids a head up after school. In addition to that, Michael mentioned the rooftops. That really provides a unique opportunity for healthy living classes, doing exercise programs outdoors, arts programs outdoors, rooftop gardening, and connecting those gardening programs to healthy cooking classes inside the building. It's a really terrific opportunity to connect the generations there. And then the idea of vitalizing the Paseo Engage will play an important role in creating unique programming in terms of public art, entertainment, and community events in the Paseo, where we curate things to connect the two buildings together and create a stronger sense of community in the neighborhood there. Then I'm going to pass on to Taylor Rasmussen from Meta Housing for the next slide.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, honorable mayor, council members, and commissioners. My name is Taylor Rasmussen, and I'm a development director with Meta Housing. Before turning to the proposed financing structure and the schedule, I just wanted to loop back on one additional design-related item, that being Meta's sustainability commitments for 900 East Broadway. As was laid out in our RFQ response, Meta is committed to designing and constructing the project to meet the requirements for a LEED Platinum certification. So some of these sustainability measures we are proposing to implement include roughly 7,000 square feet of solar on the building rooftop, dedicated electric vehicle charging stations down in the garage area, on-site bicycle parking to promote alternatives to driving, as well as LED lighting and controls to turn off or dim lights when not in use. Additionally, Meta is in the process of shifting all of our buildings to all electric on our new projects. One challenge we have identified for the 900 East Broadway site is finding enough space on the site for a second transformer. You know, in a typical Meta project, we only use gas for water heating and the community dryers. And when we try to switch those two components over to electric, it really increases the electrical demand at the site. And the utility companies typically require to be installed that second transformer. So if an all-electric building is a high priority for the city, we're very open to exploring that option with the understanding that it may result in some loss of parking stalls or potentially even a reduction in the unit count, which it sounds like may be unfavored here. But again, very interested in discussing that further with the city. And here on this slide, we have a breakdown of the milestones showing us getting through pre-development into construction in the latter half of 2021 and completing construction by the end of 2023. As Chris alluded to on the front end of the presentation, the team we've assembled here not only has extensive experience in executing on entitled designs, but also getting through the pre-development period on an expedited timeline. So the city's contributions, including the land plus the additional housing loan, will position Meta to submit a competitive tax credit application in March of 2021, with an award being made in June 2021. I just wanted to note that Meta has one of the strongest track records in the state of California in securing these competitive 9% tax credits. Over the last 5 years, Meta has been awarded 16 allocations for 16 of our projects. So, with that, Meta is very confident in our ability to secure financing and execute on the project schedule outlined here. We're excited to partner with the city on this opportunity and look forward to hitting the ground running with your team. I think that's all we had on schedule and financing, and I want to leave some time at the end here for a Q&A session. So next slide, please.
Thank you, Mr. Rasmussen. Thank you very much. Now, if I can see my colleagues, please, and I will open it up for questions. Would anyone like to hear from the architect? Any of my colleagues want to hear from the architect? Did I see Mr. Kasakian's hand go up?
I have a question, not necessarily for the architect.
Okay, all right, then let's just start the questions. Go ahead, Mr. Kasakian.
So this is a question for staff or anyone from Meta. In terms of the construction, I know that you worked on, you did the ACE 121 project, and it's a fine project. The programming there is great. The concept was great. However, I am aware of certain issues with the construction or issues with the site post-construction that have been brought to my attention by various individuals in terms of water pooling in certain places, water damage that was done. Are you using the same construction company to do this project as you did for the YMCA ACE 121 project? And also, if you can speak to those issues, I'll know where you stand with them with the YMCA and the ACE 121 building, but maybe staff or someone can tell me whether those issues have been since resolved.
Can anyone respond to that?
This is Mike Forney, Housing Product Manager. I was going to allow Meta Housing to first respond. I can do that now, and then Meta, if you'd like to add to that. Very much there was an issue with the construction of ACE 121, and in particular, we had extremely bad rainfall. Good, I guess, except for when you're building a building. We had a lot of rainfall that year, and there was some water intrusion into the YMCA gym facility that, to my knowledge, and I would have to follow up with the Y director, but to my knowledge, that was all resolved. That issue kind of came, number one, you have two buildings very close in proximity to another. That's something that we're not going to have on the 900 East Broadway site. But that was part of the issue there. Part of the issue, too, is also retaining 100% of the stormwater on site at ACE 121. And I think there was issues with the waterproofing of the YMCA building itself, and that led to water in there. To my knowledge, though, again, I believe that issue was resolved, but I want to kick it over to Meta Housing to respond whether or not it's the same general contractor and as well as the construction supervisor that they're proposing for 900.
Would that be Mr. Mathis or?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mr. Fortney. Yeah, you're correct, or Mike was correct in everything he laid out. There was sort of an unusual circumstance. There was an alleyway between the two buildings, and once that asphalt was removed to provide for groundwater or water filtration, it appeared that the YMCA building, probably because of its age, had some issues with the waterproofing in the subterranean portion of the building. It's just something that I don't think anyone could have anticipated, and we spent resources and made sure that we were able to correct that. And as far as I know, I haven't talked with George recently, but everything seems to be going fine since fixes have been. We are not certain who the ultimate contractor is going to be, we perform a competitive bid process for all of our developments, and make sure that we vet very qualified GCs. And again, I don't think that was the fault of the GC. It was sort of a unique circumstance, so we're happy to go through the process, and we're happy to skip on KPRS if he does not want us to use that contractor again. There are plenty of other qualified GCs out there that would be, I think, highly interested in working on this project. We are actually working with a different construction manager, and I think we identified him on the slide, AMJ Construction. We've done probably 25 projects with. They do a fantastic job and actually work a large number of big affordable developers in the Southern California region.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Sakian, anything else?
I have some notes here that I want to go over, but I'll wait right now. I'll wait for some of my colleagues to ask some questions before I jump back in with a few more.
All right. All right.
This is Raj. I have not
Hey,
question. Yes. I just want to ask, I guess there is an architect in here. If he can explain about this project, I will appreciate, because they're talking about 10 to 20 million or more projects. We better listen to him, see what the plan is.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Is the architect available?
I am an architect. Would you like me to discuss the issue of the density comment that you had brought up earlier?
Yes, if you want to answer my question, I will appreciate it.
It's a very good question, and it comes up occasionally. And we have found that, or the way the state tax credits are set up, that they feel like more people are served per square footage of total building with family housing than if it was all studios. And the thinking behind that is that one resident would be in a 600 square foot studio, but you might have 4 residents in a 1,200 square foot unit. And so if you divide that, one resident in 600 square feet is less dense than one person per 300 square feet in a 3-bedroom unit. So I think, another way of looking at it is looking at the density for the overall building and not just, per singular unit, if that helps.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Mayor?
Yes, but I guess there was are you the architect? I'm sorry.
Michael, you are not the architect, right?
I'm the architect for ACE 121. Today, I'm representing the landscape firm that's doing the landscape work for this particular development.
John Arnold is the architect with KFA. He's on the call. He could also respond to the question.
Yeah, similar. I agree with everything the last speaker just said. As far as unit sizes, when you get for a 3-bedroom, for example, I know you asked a question, can you make the unit smaller to fit more? For a 3-bedroom, for example, anything that's under about 1,050 square feet gets to be really challenging to have bedrooms that can fit beds, have dining areas that can fit a family of 6, which could actually fit in a 3-bedroom unit. So when you start going below certain thresholds, units start getting really tight and unfurnishable and unlivable. So we have some minimums that we work with. I don't think I've ever been able to fit a 3-bedroom in under 1,000, a 2-bedroom in under 750, except when you're really getting into tight market rate situations where, kids pile into units that they don't care how big the living rooms are. But for families, giving them a decent place where they can be a family is a priority. So 1050 for a 3-bedroom is about our threshold where we don't like to go below that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
I was, excuse me, Ms.
Go ahead.
Ms.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Devine. I guess somebody, they said there is an architect who will speak about the project. Is there licensed architect to speak about the projects itself?
John Arnold, are you the, you are the
That's me. So we're the schematic design architect. We're a licensed architect, and there's also the Meta housing architectural team. I'm not sure if I think they're on the call. So at this time I have more knowledge, but over time they'll have more knowledge. So if you have any questions about the design as it stands today, I can certainly answer those.
I just wanted generally you explain what's the thinking, what you have planned, or whoever, I guess, there's presented some drawings. So obviously somebody knew something about this project, so created all these drawings, right? Somebody.
So our firm KFA produced all the drawings that are exhibits currently as part of the project. Did you want me to speak to the design itself, or do you want me to speak more to the units?
No, design itself, generally what you have in your mind.
Sure. So the look of the building was derived through conversations that we had with the housing authority, and just the general feeling about the neighborhood. It's a residential neighborhood. We didn't think something more downtown-like would have worked as well in this more residential neighborhood. So we were going for a traditional, though contemporary look. And what that would mean is a standard fenestration, stacked units, and looking for a solid-looking building that would work well in this particular neighborhood, even though the project itself is on Broadway. For the setback, with a couple of the drivers for the project, we wanted to respect the historic complex next door. So we set the building back more on Broadway than we were required. We actually have a 0 setback requirement on Broadway. We set the building back 20 feet to correspond better with the building next door and to create some synergies there and respect the building and its scale. We also sought to, in our and the new construction building, to respond in a contemporary way to the architectural language that was going on next door, because as was pointed out in the presentation at Meta Housing, there needs to be a synergy between the two projects. So we really wanted the Courtyard to be well oriented to the buildings next door. We wanted the Paseo to celebrate the great looking historic buildings. Having brick buildings in Southern California is not a common thing, but having all the projects, all the residents in both projects be able to enjoy that gravitas of the historic architecture, and have the new construction really respect that with its open space facing the historic structures, having that as the new team picked up on, having all that open space connect with each other and have it to be a multi-generational with a kids play area, a quieter courtyard for the seniors, and the mixing zone, which was our intent as well. So I hope that answers some of your questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is Paula Devine. I'm Authority Chair, and I just want to mention about the architecture, and that I'm very happy to see on page 6A of this staff report that additional refinements to the facade of the building will also need to be made. So I'm just hoping that you add a little bit more texture to the building so that it is a little more interesting. Now let's take just a comment, passing comment. Questions from my colleagues. Mr. Brotman.
Yeah, hi. I have a few questions for, I guess, the Meta team on the sustainability items that you raised. So first of all, you talked about, all electric, and I was really happy to hear that. I do know, in the affordable, housing space, I guess people are generally using electric for cooking, which is great. And for space heating, I know water heating is not typically electric. But for me, that would be something I would really like you to look into. And, just looking at a project like this, that's going to have a life of, 50, 70 years or whatever it might be, it's going to be a lot cheaper to get it right now with the electric capacity than it is to try to, retrofit this in 10 or 20 years. So I would definitely like us to look at that. And I understand also that it's sometimes challenging with some of the washer dryer, coin operated franchise people that they tend to go with gas. I don't know how difficult it is to find somebody who will do electric, but is that so? I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is the challenges are not really around the technology or the cost effectiveness. It's just about basically your electric supply. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. As I mentioned earlier, we would need to find a location for that second transformer. Just the heating of water and, like you said, those laundry facilities, the efficiency isn't quite there today. I would say, hey, the electrical side is more efficient than gas. I don't think that's going to be true in years to come. So happy to pick up this conversation with you moving forward here. Again, if this is a top priority for the city.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is. And so, okay, let me move on. You mentioned 7,000 square foot of solar. That doesn't seem like a whole lot. What percentage of the anticipated energy use would that address?
It's a good question. It should be able to offset most of the common area electricity usage. I mean, it doesn't sound like a ton, as Michael described earlier. We are hoping to use some of those rooftop decks for programming and not just for solar PV or solar thermal. There's also access requirements up on the roof if somebody needs to repair the facade or the panels themselves. So it's something the architect's going to continue to study to make sure we can maximize the amount of panels up on that roof.
Okay. Yeah, I would encourage that, and also to look at combining that with battery storage, and just trying to make it as much of a self-sufficient building as possible. The other thing I was going to ask you about is, there are all these new rules coming for recycling, especially organic food waste. And that might require thinking additionally about space for additional bins. Also, I understand in LA, they're looking at encouraging, those, I forget what you call it, incinerators, because it may be a lot easier to just have food waste get pushed through the sewer system and then treated through our sewage treatment, than to go through the process of collecting it and sending it off to somebody that can compost it. So I don't know if you have thought about any of that, but since those are requirements that are coming up pretty soon, I think it would be smart to think about what those requirements are going to be and how you're going to fit them into the space.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we will be onboarding a sustainability consultant as well. So disposals, additional compactors, that's all stuff we can do.
Okay. And you mentioned the EV charging. So how many stations are you anticipating and compared to the number of total parking stalls you're going to have?
The number has not been finalized yet. I think it's, again, another thing we're looking to pick up with you as we move forward here to figure out kind of what your target is, what makes sense financially, what's feasible for the project. We are providing that dedication for a minimum amount of EV charging stations. Yeah, again, something we need to continue to discuss.
Okay, because we also, we know the governor announced that we're going to be phasing out the sale of internal combustion engine cars over time. So we should anticipate that over time, we're going to have more and more demand for charging, which is going to be additional, electricity load. So that may push you over the line anyway in terms of needing another, what did you say you need? Another transformer? No, another
transformer, correct.
Transformer. Yeah. So you might want to look at that, because that already might, if you're kind of looking out, 10, 20 years, though that demand is going to certainly increase. So I would just encourage you to really, spend a lot more time looking at this, but I appreciate that you, right off the bat, that is part of your thinking going into this, and it's really fantastic.
Understood. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Councilmember Najarian, comments, questions?
Thank you. I have a few comments, and I do want to pick up where Mayor Agajanian left off on the unit mix. I would, and this is really less of a comment directed at the architects and the developer, but maybe to staff and to the housing authority as a whole. I do believe that we have a greater need in this city for affordable housing in the studio, 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom sizes. I don't believe that we have, and this is anecdotally, I don't believe that we have a lot of demand for 3-bedroom affordable units from the city itself. I'm talking about organically. No doubt, if we say we've got 3-bedroom units, that we will have plenty of applicants throughout Los Angeles County, throughout Southern California as a whole. But you know, I was elected to represent we all were represented to, elected to represent the residents of Glendale. So I think what the mayor was getting at is he was trying to find a workaround from that 25% requirement for 3 bedrooms and the 25% requirement for 2 bedrooms. And he was going about it in terms of square footage. We could also go about it in terms of number of occupants, but it's something that he's identified. And I think, as I said, anecdotally, my involvement and interaction with the community over these past 40 years that I've lived here is that we have, there's a real spike in demand for the 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. Now, I may be totally wrong with that. I may be completely off on that, but we've never really had a presentation or a study given to us as to where the true demand is, the true, weakness and vulnerability for our residents that need affordable housing are. Are they seniors? In my opinion, I think they're seniors or folks on their way to becoming seniors. I don't see that many 4 or 5 member families that have affordability issues that are in the critical need compared to some of these seniors who do have a fixed income, unable to work, unable to obtain any other sort of benefits. And I understand that the sister building to this, the 920 building, is going to be designed as a senior, but it seems as though we're just throwing it out. As a housing authority member, staff comes to us and says, well, it's an affordable building and it's a senior and it's affordable and it's housing. I don't know if we really have the empirical data behind that, which shows us where the true need is and gives us that direction to focus the unit mix and unit size that would best serve our residents. Is that where you're coming from, Mr. Agajanian?
Yes, you explained it right. I want to see it. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I think that's what we're talking about here. And I understand the limitations when you say it's a family affordable project, that you have to, by requirement for those tax credits, you have to have the 25% 3-bedroom, the 25% 2-bedroom. And I think the mayor was trying to find a workaround. Does that mean number of units? Does that mean total square footage? Does that mean number of residents, et cetera? I would like to get into that a little bit. I think the housing authority needs to get some empirical evidence rather than just gut feelings. My gut feeling, sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, but have it before us so we can really direct this project. I don't think that Meta would have had a problem if we said, hey, Meta, this is going to be a senior project, and include all that great programming and those design features and sustainability features that won you the contract. I don't think you'd have a problem, making the mix the way we direct you. But that's really my issue here. I just want to pick up on the mayor's comments, is that are we serving are we best serving the residents and the affordable community in Glendale with a family housing of this size at this time? So
I would agree with your comments, Councilmember Najarian, and I have similar questions and require some more answers or some more research to help provide us those answers. I think that those are legitimate points that you've raised, as well as the mayor.
Right. And if I if I might add, you know, I know Habitat for Humanity is home ownership, but they never have a problem finding families that need. So I would be interested in a study like that as well. Are there any other questions from any of my other colleagues? Okay, I will conclude this discussion. Now, you have this listed at 100% very low and low income, but you will also be including extremely low income. Am I correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so that's good. And special needs is going to be considered, and formerly homeless, and for rapid rehousing. Is that another issue that we're going to be, or another, component of our, our residents and our community that will be eligible for this this housing?
Staff, staff has not heard or been given any direction with this project in terms of reserving a percentage of the units for special needs. So that's something we would be wanting to hear from the Housing Authority, if that's what the Housing Authority wanted.
Okay, well, speaking for myself, I would like to see, at least a small percentage for special needs, or even the rapid rehousing of the homeless. This is going to be a family project. It's going to have seniors. It's going to have young people. I love the fact that you're calling this the intergenerational mixer zone. I think that's fantastic. I looked at all 12 of the proposals, and I have to say that I chose 3. No, actually I chose 5. And of course you were one of the top 3. So I was not surprised that staff chose you. I think some of your vision and your concepts for the outdoor living are fantastic. Your Engage program is very impressive. The social services provided for all ages is to be commended. I think it's important for you to design the building for future sustainability, and not for today, but for the future, because that's what we're looking for here in Glendale. We are looking to go green as we can, and be 100% renewable, and by 2035. So this is important to all of us. And I'm also. Can you explain the securing additional funding sources? Like, who would that be?
In the case of Meta's proposal, their initial proposal was the land from the authority, the $5 million, upwards of $5 million the Housing Authority could participate, and they relied on 9% affordable. So they had one of the more simplistic funding sources. They have said in the follow-up interview, if Housing Authority direction were to pursue developmentally disabled or other special needs, there would be other funding sources that they would then have to go out and compete with.
Okay, and I just want to add that I also had questions about the number of studio apartments for a family development, but because I didn't know if it was conducive to being families, but you can get 2 people in a studio. It's very possible. So I think it's we're offering 90. What is it? 90? I have it written down somewhere. How many units are there here that we're talking about?
93.
93 units. That's 93 families. We have gone the limit, and I think it's great. So I'm ready if.
Ms. Devine, Ms.
Yes,
Devine,
Mayor.
yes, I have problem the way it has been presented. I cannot go along with seeing like 40-some thousand square feet of improvement go to 2 and 3 bedrooms, and only 22,000 goes to 1 and 2 bedroom. I just want to see if we can postpone this for a week and the staff to look into it to see how we can reduce the number of 3-bedroom units and add it to others, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, studio, as it is possible. The feasibility of it, the possibility of it, I would like to be reviewed again rather than rushing to do this and then regret at a later time or some years later.
Do any of my colleagues want to agree with that?
Chair Devine, I do have a caller on this item.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll let my colleagues think about that for a second.
Hold on.
And
When did
take
that
the
caller
call.
call in?
About a minute ago.
Okay, Madam Chair, it is your decision whether or not to allow the caller. I mean, the caller just called in right now. Certainly, the item's been going on for a couple of hours now, so, it's up to you whether or not you take the caller at this point. Leave it to your discretion.
Let me take the caller and please tell them that they have 1 minute.
Karen, you're live. Karen?
Hi,
Karen,
this
you
is
have
Karen
one-
Clark. Oh, by the way, those rooftop gardens sound wonderful. Okay. I have one question and one comment. I was hoping the presentation would cover this, but okay, I haven't seen a project like this before. So the
Karen,
actually owns the land. on
Ms.
which the
Quack,
project is going to be built.
Ms. Quack, Chair Devine has a comment before you start.
Okay, go ahead.
Karen, 1 minute, please. 1 minute.
Oh yes, this is quick. Okay.
Thank
So the city owns the land on which this project is going to be built, but the building itself is going to be privately owned. Is that correct? And if so, what assurances do we have that the housing will actually remain affordable over the long term? Is that going to be covered in the AHA that's going to be drafted later on?
All right, thank you. Mr. Garcia, Mr. Lanzafame, an answer? I do believe there is like 50 years. How long does the,
We
lease-
will have covenants on the property. They will be at least 55 years. We will do monitoring of the project for the entire life of that. The developer is going in, understanding that. They're using tax credits, which will compel that. And so we're not inventing anything new. This is the way that we have been structuring our affordable housing units. In fact, ones that have been around for 50 years and just came up and we renewed them.
all right, thank you. That's what I thought. Okay, so my colleagues, does anyone want to delay this, motion or this selection authorizing this ENA, or do you want to do it today? Anyone for waiting a week to see if they can redesign the?
I'll move to wait a week.
Okay, so we have that
Second.
seconded. Okay, well, we have the motion to give you a week to come back with a possibility of more 2 bedrooms or 1 bedrooms and less 3 bedrooms. So with that.
Madam Chair, just so the Housing Authority is aware, what we will do is we will talk to the architects to see if, one, it can physically be done, how you would do that. And 2, we will talk to the tax credit committee if we can and find out if there is a different way to do it based on square footage or if they're set on unit count. We will ask that question.
Thank you.
Square footage, people, unit count.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you all. Mr. Brotman, did you want to add anything? Mute, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay, yeah, I had wanted to hear from staff because I know that there was a sense of urgency on this because we have a tight timeline. So if they think, losing a week is not going to jeopardize anything, then I'm fine with it. I don't know if Mr. Lanzafame,
We'll ask Mr. Fortney.
Yeah.
Mr. Fortney, what do you think?
Delaying 1 week is not going to jeopardize our schedule.
Okay, done.
But we will come back with what we have in a week. I don't know, without conferring with our architect, whether they're going to have that puzzle figured out. We should be able to reach the tax committee, though, and answer that question.
I appreciate that.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So what's next, Mr. Jimian?
Authority member and staff comments?
Any comments? Thank you all very much. This was an exciting day, and Mr. Mathis, we'll see you next week, right? We hope. What's next, please?
Adjournment?
Do I have a motion?
I move that to adjourn.
second.
We are adjourned at 5:09. Thank you. Ms. Papazian, are you still there?
Okay.
Laura? Oh, I'm sorry. You're on. Okay.
Okay, I will call the closed session meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brotman?
Here.
Devine?
Yes, I'm here, but I have to recuse myself on the Armenian American Museum issue in closed session today. Thank you.
Kasakian?
Here.
Najarian? Mayor Agajanian?
Present, yes. Okay.
One would be closed session, 1A would be conference with real property negotiators, property location 201 East Colorado Street, negotiating parties, the Armenian American Museum and Cultural Center of California, agency negotiators. Attending the closed session are Rubik Galanian, Mike Garcia, Jim Van Meiden, Philip Lansfeen, Michelle